The 2015 Berg River Canoe Marathon is proudly brought to you by Wesgro, the Drakenstein Municipality, Hansa Pilsener and Accurate. The 54th edition of the Berg River Canoe Marathon attracted a big field to Paarl, but when they arrived for the pre-race time trial, the blunt reality kicked in. The Berg was running at one of its lowest levels ever. The time trial had to be moved downstream and shortened, a hint of a tough 240 kilometers ahead to the west coast. The defending champ knew everyone was going to have to dig deep.
Yeah, I don't want to put so much pressure on myself to be top step of the podium. There's some really top races this year, nice field of competitors, and it's low, which throws different aspect into the race, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun and there's definitely going to be some tough racing. Yeah, I think anyone wants to try and beat someone of that sort of stature with 9 wins here. Whether one can beat him or not is a different story. Yeah, for sure, 9 times Berg champ, definitely the favourite, and he'd be a great guy to race against here, and it'd be nice to have him in the group.
For only the second time in its history, the Berg didn't start in Paarl, instead at Hermonbridge, 45 kilometers downstream, thanks to the low water and hyacinth infestation. A narrow river reduced the number of boats in each row and added to the nerves as the seeded A batch got underway.
I'm used to marathon paddling and I'm used to whitewater paddling as well, but I tripped a few days now and it's completely different than what I've ever seen. My plan is, like I said, don't give too much in the first 2 days actually, so you can still have some energy left for the last 2 days, because I'm used to 33 Ks. This is a 240 Ks, so that's different. And I heard the last 2 days are just, there's more water, you can better put your pedal in the water. And the last 2 days are easier to pedal for us Europeans, so save some up for them.
Today you have both. You have the top guys really racing at the high level, world-class paddlers, but you still have the guys at the back who just want to finish the race, and it's as tough as ever. And this year in particular, with the 3 blocks that we've had on the first 2 days, made the days very long. I mean, guys were out there for 9 to 10 hours a day, which makes it very tough.
Drift and the traditional start of day 2, but we're dealing with it on day 1 here. It'll also be our first glimpse of the paddlers after they've started from Hermonbridge. So it's about 15 Ks in and a lot of trees. So a lot of speculation about who's been rubbed off in the bunches. The bunches, that first 50 group is going to be dramatically split up. It's really shallow. As you can see, we don't even normally see this weir we've got in the background here. That little 2-step weir is normally completely underwater. We often have paddlers going over this bridge, but this year they're dealing with super low water. Let's see who is really dealing with the early stages of day 1. Graham Solomon driving the pace with Andy Burkett, and ominously Hank McGregor shadowing their every move. Spaniard Kiko Vega also right in the mix, mixing skills and tenacity on the low river.
Now I've done 45, and some of them were tough and some were easy. But I can tell you this year is going to be one of the tough years because it's low, and today was nice weather, which helped a little bit. The thing is, with the low water you get more tree blocks that comes out of the water. So there's more stoppages than normal. So for the black guys, it's really going to be a long day today, and they definitely get here after dark.
Just outside Gouda you find this bridge. It's one of the defining features of day 2 of the Berg River Canoe Marathon, but with the rejigged format due to the low river, this is now going to form the bridge prize on day 1 of this year's marathon. And for a lot of the paddlers that are in contention in that front bunch, a little bit of cash to be earned here.
it's nice to be back. It's going to be a tough race, you know. So, but yeah, it's good to be back, and I'm happy to be racing. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good international competition, just because of the local guys and the international guys. So I think for the international guys, it's going to be a great race, you know. For sure, Andy's a defending champion, and you know, he won it last year, and yeah, I think it's going to be a good race between myself and him, and I think a lot of other guys that could take up the podium spots and maybe even the #1 spot. So, you know, the Berg's 4 days of long racing, tough tactical racing. So if you haven't really done those big miles, you might pay for it dearly. Yeah.
By the closing stages of day one, there were two at the front, Andy Burkett and Hank McGregor.
It was a long, so I think it was 64 k's today, and just under 5 hours winning time, so it's a long day on the water, and I was just happy. I had a great clean race with Andy Burkett for the last sort of 2 hours. Solomon dropped off, and yeah, I managed to stretch him with about 3.5 kilometers to go. He looked like he was struggling, and I pushed the pace, and he seemed to come off, and I capitalized on that, and I'm here first, and I'm really happy. But there's still lots of racing to go, so it's definitely not over by a long way.
Bianca Bevitt worked her way into pole position in the women's race. Kiko Vega finishing really strongly, and all of the visiting internationals in the top 8 on day one. Well, the shadows are getting long and the sun is dipping towards the horizon here at the finish at Bridgetown, and we've just got the top 20 paddlers in. That means 140 odd paddlers are still out on the water. One can only imagine the stories that will be coming from the back markers when they tap in here late into night, perhaps even into the dark. It's a very cold and misty start to day 2 of the Berg River Canoe Marathon here at Zonko's, racing the traditional second stage, which is about 45 kilometers. It'll be a tough morning for some of the paddlers. The back markers got in at the end of the 64 kilometer first stage at around 7:30 last night, so a very long day. The bodies will be sore. They're going to have to regroup themselves and get back onto exactly the same stretch of water for the 45 k's all the way down to the headwaters of Misverstand Dam.
This year it's been very exciting because the 5 internationals came over, and I think there was a lot of sort of, you know, quite sort of speculation amongst the locals as to how well they would do. And they're all class paddlers in their own rights, but the Berg's had a reputation as being not a normal paddling race, and honestly I've been blown away with how they've performed, and I think they've added a lot of spice to the race, and yeah, I'm honestly very impressed. And I think it was I'm not sure whose initiative it was to get them here, but yeah, it was almost like a kind of the South Africa versus the rest of the world, like teams. I mean, the variety of countries that they've come from, and they almost stick together as a team in a way. I think it's been a big plus for this year's race.
Yeah, I definitely think day 1 you can set yourself up. Day 2, obviously you can lose it or win it, and day 3 and 4 with all these international guys, it's going to be a different Berg altogether. These guys are international marathon racers. You know, they're all top class in their countries, and you know, they know how to race flatwater marathon races and stuff like that. And I think the South African guys are really going to have to struggle to stay on that front bunch. You know, it's going to be fast and obviously tactical, and they're going to try and make up as much as they can if they've lost out. You know, so I think Berg's in for a totally new race altogether.
Bianca Bevitt already in total control of the women's race. The bridge over the Berg just outside Gouda is the traditional Day 2 bridge prize, and it also offers a fantastic vantage point because you can look upriver for probably a kilometre. The river is wide here and it offers a fantastic spectator point. The one given though on Day 2 is that we know what the first sight is going to be when the first of the paddlers arrive. Hank McGregor starting with a 3-minute lead and starting like a bat out of hell. It's almost certain that he will be first around the corner and the man to claim the bridge prize when he gets here to Gouda Bridge.
The pace is always, you're trying to chase a group, or you're pushing off a tree block, or you're pushing off a portage. Whereas the previous long race I did, we just set a pace and just hold that pace all the way. So yeah, certainly different. And it's really competitive. I understand it's one of the more competitive years. It's great having the 4 other international guys. I kind of know Andy and Hank from racing them on international circuits, so I knew they're good. And I knew that on one of their rivers, they're probably going to be even stronger. So yeah, if you're going to do a race and you have the opportunity to race the best in the world, then yeah, it's brilliant.
Racing water that they had already covered on Day 1 made it a little easier, but for McGregor at the front, his lead was supplemented by the bonus time from the new time trial rule, and that meant he was going to be all on his own for 45 kilometers. So Day 2 of the Berg River Canoe Marathon, a tale of 2 halves. Hank McGregor going out hot and extending his overnight lead to 6 minutes by Gouda Bridge. But then in the second half, Kiko Vega, the Spaniard, driving a chasing group with Andy Burkett, that effectively shut that all the way down to a deficit of just 2.5 minutes by the time they reached Bridgetown. So plenty of intrigue still wrapped up in this year's Berg River Canoe Marathon. And it all changes with the weather. The cold front has moved in. Day 3 and Day 4 are going to be cold, wet, and the weatherman says it's going to be a howling headwind to boot. Tough days on the Berg. Kiko Vega remains right in the fray for the podium, with Jacob Adam now up to 4th. Joep van Bakel of the Netherlands fastest on stage 2.
A lot of wine farms here. You can compare it with northern part of Italy, Alps, and a lot of wine farms as well. Nice hospitality from organizers here, and in South Africa are very nice people, very friendly. I like it here.
Day 3, the longest and toughest, starts across Misverstand Dam, and the character of the race changes en route to Zoutkloof. Day 3 of the Berg River Canoe Marathon. They talk about this day in hushed tones, and for good reasons. It's 74 kilometers long, and this year not only is the river low, but the weather has turned overnight dramatically. It's cold, and there's a strong northeaster which represents a headwind for the paddlers blowing up the valley. There's a sense that some of the elite paddlers would like to just tap this 15Ks, use it as a warm-up. But I also sense that the elite paddlers from overseas in that international team are going to try and shake things up here. The old train bridge and the road bridge and the little weir here at Moravia, and this is the place which is going to determine the bridge prize for day 3 of this year's Berg River Canoe Marathon. But the issue that the organisers have been debating has been the weir under the bridge. It's so shallow that it's a touch and go call about whether the paddlers will be able to scrape through. With the help of Gavin White, who's a great former paddler himself, they've now decided that there's probably enough water to say the elite guys can give it a go, and they're going to allow them to shoot through one particular slot. All the other slots have been cordoned off with tape. Andy Burkett winning the dice to the old train bridge to scoop the bridge prize for day 3. Paddlers reach a low-level bridge at Klipheuvel, and at this level there's absolutely no chance of them shooting it. The river's got to be an awful lot fuller for them to be able to go over the top, and even then most years it's a compulsory portage. But with the construction at the site here at Klipheuvel, it's more a case of where they're going to take out. And you can see the seconds and the supporters are busy sussing out the various options here. There's loose shale here and you want to get away really quickly, portage around the bridge and put in at the bottom.
We had 2 South Africans on the group and I think 5 internationals at one stage, which is really great. And a lot of those guys were pushing the pace the whole way. And the guys were tough. Flip, we were just trying to hang on and share the pulls. Yeah, it's Kiko Vega. He's a few seconds behind me. He's an extremely tough guy. He just doesn't give up. He paddled most of day 1 on his own. And today I think he was one of the stronger paddlers coming in now. He's definitely pushing the pace more than Hank and myself and anyone else in that group. So he definitely won't fall off the front group tomorrow, and he'll hang in there right to the end.
Well, here at the finish at Zoutkloof, day 3 is going to be a torturous end for the paddlers. 74 kilometers is an issue enough, the low river is an issue enough, but the wind has been picking up steadily all day, from a brisk breeze to a full-on gale that's now coming in from the northeast. I heard somebody saying, somebody who's done more than 40 of these races, this is the toughest day 3 he can ever remember in the history of the Berg.
Tough day today, so actually we took off in a nice pace, that wasn't too bad. So we were with a big group until the first portage at the dam, and then it split up. I stayed with the first guy, so it was too bad after 40 Ks we had to let go of the group because of a mistake at one of the portages. We couldn't get back, but I wasn't alone, so I was with Keith. We died both, but we made it.
A brutal stage, cementing McGregor's control at the top. Aussie Brendan Rice hitting the wall and dropping back to 9th overall.
It is, in my view, the most difficult race in the country, and now I'm talking about all kinds of sports. It's a real challenge, and we call it the ultimate challenge. And when people battle together and they suffer together, well, they become friends because they have to help one another, and that's a great thing about the Berg.
It's day 4, the final stage of the Berg River Canoe Marathon. Still a long 60-kilometer haul into Veldrift on the west coast. But after 3 days of torturous weather, it looks like the weather gods have finally seen fit to smile on the race, because the rain has eased up, the wind thankfully is gone, and the paddlers are going to look forward to arguably the best conditions for the home session into the finish at Veldrift.
Willems was the first guy to do all these long rivers. So he did the Orange, for instance. Now, when he was in matric, just after matric, 59, he did the Orange, and then they sat around and decided, why not have a race? He did the Orange, then the Limpopo, then the Chassis, and then they did the Berg. Yeah, there was actually a guy down the road, a guy called Berg. He was a friend of my father, and he actually came up with the idea of a race. So and then they planned it. And my father did the timekeeping, my mother did the cooking, and Berg helped them out. And that was the first day. There were 12 entries or something like that. So it was crazy.
I was even younger at that stage, so I wasn't there on the first Berg. But I mean, I remember seeing the photos and the boats and the. And what it looked like, and it's totally different from what we have now.
The weather conditions have turned out to be absolutely ideal. The river is still low, and here at the Kersefontein Bridge, about 10 or 15 k's into the final stage, this is where the bridge prize is going to be decided, but only when the elite paddlers get here. They started half an hour behind the first of the batches, and this is where these guys get their moment in the sun, because coming up behind us, the first of those paddlers from that early batch is about to find his way under Kersefontein and will hopefully get a rock star welcome.
Yeah, I think the guys are really pleased. We wanted to get one guy on the podium at least and try and all be in the top 10. There's a few of the locals said they kind of written us off a little bit, thinking, oh, right, you might be international, but you're not going to make your way through the first 2 days. So I think we kind of survived the first couple of days, maybe a little bit better than some people expected. And now when it gets to a little bit more open water, well, hopefully we should be a little bit better in that sort of thing.
Andy Burkett getting up to snatch the last bridge prize away from Hank McGregor, while lots of others got lost in the mist and the gangetjies and ended up portaging.
Just 14 kilometers from the finish is Oordraplek here at Kliphoek, and this is where the paddlers will get out. They're going to look forward to the leg stretch, but with the rain that's fallen here overnight, it's really muddy and slippery, so it's a portage of a couple of 100 meters. But the big question is, where are the paddlers going to go? Some of their seconds are encouraging them to take a slightly uphill route here, which is going to keep them out of the mud, but a lot of the paddlers with that red mist in front of them are going to charge through the mud, and let's hope that they manage to stay on their feet.
Hey, you always got to do better than one that you did before, you know. So everyone's talking about tents, you know, and you know, anything can happen. You know, it's one of those races. You can have a bad day and you can lose minutes on everyone else, and you can go from first to right to 10th. You know, it can happen. Hopefully I can get a good result, make it 10.
You can't just try and break away from the start and win the race. You have to just play a game of chess almost. No one else is better than that than Hank.
A carnival mood in Veldrift to welcome the paddlers, and McGregor and Burkett duel it out all the way to the line, with the world champ prevailing to claim his 10th in impressive style.
Yeah, look, I couldn't be happier. I mean, to win one Berg something, to win 10, well, I guess it's one for the record book. So very happy. Had a great race, 4 stage wins in a row. Couldn't be happier.
This has been a very tough Berg. I am so impressed with everyone who's taking part and doing this and finishing. Even if they haven't finished, I take my hat off. Turn around that corner down there and you see this bridge that says "Welcome to Veldrift, you have finished." Is amazing.
Almost 19 hours the time for the winner, an indication of just how tough it was. McGregor, Burkett and a very satisfied Kiko Vega, the best ever Berg debut result in the modern era. With the Air Force Silver Falcons adding extra luster to the finish of an epic Berg, the 54th edition of this race will be talked about for decades to come. With surprisingly few starters falling by the wayside, every single finisher joins a special group that can say with pride, "I conquered the brutal Berg in 2015. The 2015 Berg River Canoe Marathon was proudly brought to you by Wesgro, the Drakenstein Municipality, Hansa Pilsener and Accurate.